Hey guys, welcome back to DrawOrDieActually. Thank you for dropping by. On last week's episode, we saw that I had spent the prior week kind of splashing around the pool, so to speak. It was a week of experimentation, settling back in, and trying on a few shiny new mediums. After discovering rather quickly how much artistic backsliding had occurred over my extended sabbatical, it made sense to head back to the drawing board, so to speak.
No.
A logical starting point seemed to be the head and face. Over the last 7 days, I've been nose down in it, concentrating hard on just that. We'll soon go over what I've learned, where I learned it, and how it went, with the understanding that even deeper dives will most definitely be close behind. Before we head to the head, though, I thought it would be a good idea to talk a bit about supplies in our workspace. I am on quite a limited budget and unafraid of straight out thrifting for whatever it is I'm out to find. Art can be a pricey road to go down. That's just a fact, especially at the professional level. But while we're learning, experimenting, and finding our footing, it's really not necessary to go after all the top shelf tools and supplies we can find. As artists, creativity is in our bones. That creativity can be put to good use in setting up a workspace with basically everything we need without having to break ourselves in the process. I'm going to go over some ideas to get us started on a budget, as well as specifics about what I've been able to put together myself. I won't be getting into many of the more expensive brands unless I've directly used them. That will be for another episode down the road. For now, we're going to do this thing as cheaply as possible. All you need for drawing is a pencil, an eraser, and some blank paper. Even if all you have are plain No. 2 graphite pencils, the kind they made you get boxes full of every year in school, a $1 eraser, and a stack of generic print paper, you're all set. You can start working on your craft right now. There's a lot you can do with these 3 simple things. The only caveat I would offer here is to understand the limits of the everyday school-grade graphite pencil. Your value range will have a hard limit on the darker side. I've tested this theory over and over again, and yet somehow continue to feel like if I just scribble a little harder and a little longer, that shadow's going to get darker. It's not. It's just going to get shinier and shinier until I've finally worn a hole in my barely weighted sheet of office paper. The moral of the story? Know the limits of the tool you're using and everything will be fine. Use even light pressure with these pencils. They will offer a light to medium tone at most, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially for practicing sketching. When you're ready to begin using graphites, there are a ton of options to get you going cheaply. Here in Ontario, Canada, I simply went to the nearest Michaels. A parallel in the US would be something like Hobby Lobby, but I'm sure you could find them at a Walmart as well. Michaels offers a basic 12-pack of their store brand pencils, Artist Loft, that includes a range of hardness levels from 6B up through 1H, including 2 HBs. The kit also includes 3 blending tortillons, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, a kneaded eraser, a basic white eraser, and a double pencil sharpener. The entire set was only $7.99 Canadian. During a visit to Dollarama, of all places, a store similar to Dollar Tree in the US, I noticed that they actually had a set of artist graphites there for even less. Side note, if you're also wanting to add a few charcoals to the mix, I'll be touching on a good combo. That's said in a few moments. As far as paper is concerned, I picked up a 160-page 9x12 sketchbook from Dollarama while I was there for $4.75. It's a great sketchbook. The texture is perfect, and I'm even able to practice pastels on it. It is a lighter weight, so that's something to keep in mind, but for practicing, the weight, the texture, and the price couldn't be better. I'm sure with a little effort, a good equivalent can easily be found just about anywhere. I did grab a new set of 10 blending stumps and tortillons from Michaels for $11.99, but there is a similar set of 6 for $4. I was in need of some fresh kneaded erasers. My stumps and erasers were both super old and worn out. The pack of 2 at the art store set me back $4.49. I was also able to find your basic rectangular white erasers, not a far shot from the ones you'd find at the art supply, at $1.50 for a pack of 4 at Dollarama. They've been working for me just fine. Before we go on, I want to bring up that most of these things can easily be found on Amazon, Walmart's online store, or most other online sources for a comparable price if your speed is more sitting on the couch and shopping in your PJs. I've done plenty of that myself, as we'll soon see. I have 2 sets of 6 Winsor & Newton charcoal pencils that came in tins, currently $13.49 each at Michael's. Their set of generic charcoals comes with 1 each hard, medium, and soft pencils with a white pastel as a bonus, as well as a single metal sharpener and a plain white eraser for $10. But if I were after a starter pack with both graphites and charcoals, as I mentioned earlier, there is a cheaper set with 1 of each hard, medium, and soft charcoal pencils, 1 each black, gray, and white pastel sticks, and 1 each 2B, 4B, and 6B graphite pencils for $7.99. The kit also comes with a kneaded eraser, plain white eraser, 3 tortillions, and a double pencil sharpener. Inexpensive combo sets like this one are pretty commonplace and worth keeping an eye out for. Wanting something I could use for larger and broader areas and strokes, I did recently grab a set of 3 soft, medium, and hard compressed charcoal sticks from the art supply as well for $6.99. That came with a white pastel stick and a plastic case. An extra note about erasers. I have a Tombow Mono Zero retractable eraser that's refillable and I purchased about 2 years ago at Michael's, but I can't find it there now. I was able to find it on Amazon for around $8.75. The diameter of the eraser itself is only 2.3 millimeters, which is amazing for small details, and I found that I use it all the time. It isn't essential by any means, but it's something that I've come to love having around. I've been using the same Dollarama sketch pad for practicing charcoals that I use for practicing graphites and pastels. That has worked absolutely fine and with good results for what I'm doing right now. I also have a pad of Artist Sloth 9x12 acid-free mixed media paper for when I want something a little more sturdy to work with. This particular pad has 60 98-pound sheets at around $18. It has a nice semi-rough grain and says it's for both wet and dry media, but I'm not sure I'd use it for much past pencils, charcoal, or pastels. Round 1 of the pastel purchases got me my first set of both sticks and pencils to give the whole thing a go. I picked up a pack of 24 store brand full-size pastel sticks out of the gate for around $18 on clearance at Michael's in the town where I live. I found out that this store in particular is discontinuing carrying pastels for some unknowable reason. I'm not sure if it's a chain-wide thing or just at the store here in town, but nonetheless, I got a discount. They've been fine to work with and have really good pigment strength. I can't say how the color fastness is though, and that information isn't provided. I don't think it is with a lot of the cheapest options. I also purchased a set of Faber-Castell Pitt pastel pencils that I've been using for around $40 on Amazon. The pencils were something I wasn't able to easily find locally, so ordering was about the only option. A brand on Amazon I did see a lot of and was substantially less expensive were Color pencils. The reviews seem fairly decent, and for less than $40 they offer a set of 50 pencils as opposed to Faber's 12. I chose to go with a slightly more known brand this time, hoping for a little stronger pigment. Round 2 of the pastel purchases got me a set of 24 Stabilo Carbothello Arty pastel pencils for $65.99 from Amazon. After giving the pastels a shot and finding it coming fairly intuitive to me for the most part, I felt that the Faber-Castells were a little harder than I would have liked for some of the lighter colors. I was hoping for something slightly more visible over my layers and bit the bullet on this one after seeing repeated recommendations for them from several well-regarded professional pastel artists. They are amazing and I love them so far. Great pigment, they glide across the paper, worth it. I also decided to sample a set of 24 Faber-Castell mini sticks for $20, also from Amazon, which I am absolutely loving and am going through way faster than I meant to. I can't help myself, they're great. And lastly, I have a set of 15 Rembrandt half sticks coming as well from a third-party Amazon seller that still haven't arrived, but I'm hoping will be worth the wait. These are pro quality sticks and I'm really excited to try them. The sampler I ordered cost around $36 and included free shipping. I started out without proper pastel blenders. After a few tries, I realized the tortillons and stumps tended to just wipe away the pastels instead of blending them. And though my fingers were working well for blending larger areas, I was getting pretty frustrated with trying to blend out more detailed areas. The good news is that the blenders are relatively cheap. I was able to find a 4-pack of handles with 40 replacement sponge heads for $13.99 on Amazon. I'm currently using all the same erasers and papers for the pastels as I use for graphites and charcoals. There are papers specific to pastels, but the most important thing I'm figuring out as far as paper for practice purposes is to make sure whatever paper you use has some texture and at least a little weight to it. Though the dollar store sketch pad I have is a lighter paper, it still holds up well enough if that's all I'm doing. The mixed media pad I have is perfect for slightly more ambitious projects at the moment. I haven't been able to find any pastel-specific papers that I like locally, and I don't trust ordering something that I don't know online for pastels only. The only paper I do know of that is supposedly the absolute best pastel paper on earth that everybody swears by, and you don't even have to use a fixative with because it's like God paper or something, is Pastel Mat. Yeah. I'm sure it's incredible paper. I'm just not there yet. As for acrylics, I'm gonna need new ones. I'll probably end up ordering something like this online or picking up something along these lines from Michael's. Something at the entry level as far as quality here is fine with me. I'm basically brand new to it. I already have a big bottle of gesso that cost around $15. I grabbed a couple of palettes from Dollarama for about $1.50 each, along with a set of watercolors that were only $3. I've yet to try them out, but you'll be the first to know how that goes. I've got a handful of OK brushes already, but I am in need of a better variety and definitely some small liners. I'll likely end up with something similar to this. It seems likely to cover all the bases. The ones I do have came from Michael's, again, for around $8. I've got a 1.5-inch brush from the dollar store that cost me $1 and works great, as well as a set of plastic palette knives that cost $4. I can easily pick up cheap canvases to practice with from Dollarama that serve their purpose well for now. For my workspace, most of what I've gotten to get it up and functional I picked up from Dollarama all in one shot. I think I spent like $30 or $40 total there, and I was buying other stuff too. A $5 wooden cutting board for a solid surface I can run an X-Acto knife on without damaging, a sanding block to sharpen pencils, masking tape to mask off paper and canvas. I only use it on the heavier paper, and it works great. My wastebasket, drawers for paints, glues, tapes, and knives. Hot glue, super glue, wooden dowels and styrofoam for mall sticks, a box knife for sharpening, a vinyl tablecloth to protect the desk. All of this from one trip to a bargain basement store. I just use drugstore hairspray as a fixative for now. It does darken the pieces a little bit, but at the moment I'm only keeping them for myself and I don't mind. It really works well if you hold it about 15 inches from the art and spray it in one thin layer at a time. Just make sure to let it dry between layers. It's quick, simple, effective, and super cheap. My best advice here is to buy the least fancy, least conditioning, strongest hairsprays. Those work the best and cause the least color or value shifting. I use parchment paper between the pieces of art to protect them from rubbing against one another. So far, so good with all of that. The easel I have was purchased from Amazon for $28.99. Told you I was a pajama shopper. It's full-size, adjustable, and can be shrunk down to fit on the desk, is lightweight, and comes with a carry bag. Fun fact, there's also a DIY desk easel hidden under my desk that I used for quite a while and never really had any trouble with. I made it using a tutorial I found on YouTube out of cardboard, tape, and hot glue. It was as close to free as it gets. I'll be sure to include a link to the video in the description if you're interested or you want to give it a try yourself. Continuing on, I have a storage container that my amazing husband picked up about 2 years ago on clearance for $5 that I've converted into a sort of portable art studio. It fits everything I need, including a large sketchbook or a thin canvas. Anytime I want to move around with my supplies, it's easy to grab and take with me. I even installed a paper towel dispenser. Something I always have around when I'm working on anything is plenty of paper towels. I have gloves, I rarely use them. I've got small and large clips I keep around for fastening reference images, rigging up whatever needs rigged up in the moment. They come in handy often and they're very inexpensive. The only thing in the miscellaneous category I'd say I really splurged on, if you could call it that, was the easel and a desk vacuum for picking up charcoal and pastel dust. It was around $20 on Amazon and is the perfect size for what I'm doing. An important piece of getting my own workspace together I'm already coming to realize are my reference images. My advice at this early point in the process is this: draw as many of them as possible yourself. It's incredible practice to sketch them out and re-sketch until you have an image worthy enough to be your reference in the first place. It's also a reminder of what you're able to do. You'll always have something to look up at and remember that you actually can do this. I didn't buy anything to make the tack board they're pinned on. I'm really notorious about saving good pieces of cardboard for whatever little side projects I end up getting sucked into. It happens a lot. I just threw some black poster board over a sheet of it, tacked it to the wall, and started putting up cutouts I thought would be useful to have an eye shot. I also have laminated pictures, laminated meaning I carefully covered them with clear packing tape, of my family. They're just black and white printouts, but that's perfect for something to look at when I feel like working on portraits. It also finishes up making the space mine and somewhere I really want to be. What could be more important than feeling drawn into the space where you do your work? I want to finish this portion by saying the exact same thing I said at the beginning. All you need to start making art is a pencil, an eraser, and some blank paper. Starting is easy. If you find you need or want more than that, it's not out of reach. Most of what I have can be put together very affordably with a little creativity and determination. Just get excited about being stubborn and cheap enough, and you'll easily be able to get yourself up and running.
Sorry, it's DJ.
This week I started off back at square one, Proko's playlist, Draw the Head from Any Angle. In this series, he goes through how to use the Loomis Method. I patiently followed along from the most basic structuring, the front-facing, side-facing, and three-quarter views, starting a bit shaky at first to be sure. Gradually, though, things began to improve as the exercises and lessons went on. I want to emphasize, this is something I've done a fair amount of in the past, but it's been a very long time. As I've said in the other videos, I don't expect this pace of improvement to continue, and I wouldn't expect it at all if I had never done this before. So the key here is to be patient with yourself. The lessons become more complex a little at a time. It was important for me to practice as many throwaway sketches and thumbnails of these heads as I could fit into the day, even repeating the lessons when I felt unsure of anything. I progressed from the basic angles to more complex ones as the series went on to the lessons, drawing the head from extreme angles, quickly draw heads with the Loomis Method Part 1, and draw any head type with the Loomis Method Part 2. These were becoming much easier now, and the likenesses and shapes of specific references were actually beginning to show through. Okay, I was getting somewhere maybe. I next moved on to Proko's playlist, How to Draw Facial Features. I followed through each lesson and did my best to pause and sketch out every reference drawing I thought would be useful to have nearby. Those are the ones I showed earlier hanging up on my reference board. I'm finding I'm already glancing up at them often to help keep my drawings in line. They're helping a lot. Proko goes through the eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and hair, as well as a lesson on design with a special guest caricature artist. There are 2 more videos in the playlist, one on stylized portraits and one titled How to Draw a Self-Portrait that I didn't quite get to, but we'll be revisiting soon. By the time I got to the facial features, I felt myself really beginning to ease into things and become much more comfortable again with what I was doing. The 2 areas I noticed I was having the most trouble with and found the most complicated were the mouth and hair. I don't know what happened to my mouths over the past years of being out of practice, but ouch. Hair was never my strong suit and will, no doubt, be a focus of a future video. It will also be a focus of many hours of burying my own head in a sketchbook alongside references and other artists' interpretations to study. Next up, I moved on to the Reilly Method. It seems like a kind of Loomis Method on steroids. It takes a lot of the basics of what is contained within the Loomis Method and goes several steps deeper. I followed a tutorial on the YouTube channel Art by Galen, How to Draw the Head and Face, Reilly Method art tutorial. The front-facing example is a bit complex, but once you've kind of got the Loomis Method, at least the overall gist, the Reilly Method becomes pretty easy to follow. I didn't have too much trouble with it, but I did find that it might be a bit much, practically, to lay out for an actual portrait if you're on real paper. I could see it being a great tool when drawing digitally, where opacities can easily be raised or lowered within separate layers. Art by Galen follows this video up with How to Draw the Head and Face, Reilly Method 3/4 view, which I also followed along with. This method, overall, is a great way to get more accurate spacing and proportions out of facial features, including in a turn view like this. The 3/4 view is a bit more challenging than the straight ahead though, just because it goes into so much detail. Even the poor guy doing the video got thrown for a minute by the thing, and he is clearly an amazing as well as professional portrait artist. Nonetheless, I followed through on both tutorials and came out with 2 very helpful resource drawings that I cleaned up and are now on my desk. I think they'll likely come in handy often. I'm going to try to make a routine of pulling this out as an exercise as well. As for using it as a base for a full-on big project portrait down the road, I'm not sure. I think the reference I have, though, will be really useful. If you find you're more drawn to this particular method, however, we all do this our own way, don't be afraid to go all in, especially if you're drawing digitally. The final project of the week was a follow-along with David Kassan, My Life in Art, titled, Drawing This Will Make You a Better Artist. This was all about the 1976 reference sculpture known as the Asaro Head, created by John Asaro. It wasn't just about it, it was a challenge to draw it. To clarify this further, the text overlay on the video's thumbnail states, "The hardest object I've ever drawn." Judging from the incredible, intricate, beautiful portraits he presents in just this video, that's saying quite a bit. The original version of this video was presented as a live stream. It's a fairly relaxed follow-along as he goes through the entire process in real time, drawing out the sculpture using his iPad with a split screen of the head. I geeked out on this one. This was every plane of the face, including both above and below the skin surface. The Asaro Head is in 2 halves. One half contains the planes outside the skin. The other half goes below the skin, revealing the planes of the muscle structures, cartilage, and eyeball over most of the hemisphere. The sculpture does stay above skin, on the mouth, most of the lower jaw, and the ear, it seems, but I might be misreading it a little. This one took a while, but I was happy with the result. I was determined to get as much out of this exercise as I could. Kassan stresses going back to the reference model and doing this again and again is a skill-building exercise, which is something he apparently likes to do often. I'll be sure to put this in the cycle as a major but important repeating workout. For now, the Asaro Head is on my desk, along with all the other references I've come away with this week. The head, face, and bust are going to be a continuing study. I am nowhere near done with it. As this progresses, we'll get into the structures together in more detail, as well as move on from the head and face to figuring out how to get our arms around the ever-complicated pain in the ass that hair seems to be, at least for me. Soon enough, we'll also find our way from all of this to the neck and the upper torso. Come hell or high water, we will get through the entire head and bust. Then comes the rest of the body. We're just getting started. I hope you've come away with confidence that no matter where you're starting from, no matter your budget or lack thereof, there's really not much stopping you, or anyone for that matter, from just picking up a pencil and drawing. Beyond that, anything you may want to venture into or add to your skill set, your toolkit, or your workspace is easily doable with a little creativity, stubbornness, and willingness to work at it. Will we be in love with every sketch from day one? Of course not, even less so in the beginning. None of us will ever be fully satisfied with our work, but that's how we get better. Will cheaper materials and tools give us museum quality or commission quality results? No, but they don't need to. We're learning right now. When the time comes that we need something better, the necessary doors will open when that time arrives. That's how following the path we're meant to be on works. I really do believe that. And what's the path each of us should be on? It's whatever path we've consistently felt emptier, the further we've strayed from it, while simultaneously terrified that we'd never be good enough to walk on it. If you've stuck with me through the whole episode, I want to thank you for still being here and for stopping by DrawOrDieActually. Next week, we'll continue digging into the head, face, and if time allows, start moving from there to the neck, upper back, chest, and shoulders, the bust. Stay tuned to find out how far we manage to get. If you enjoyed this episode, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're finding this content valuable. Share if you're feeling generous. I hope to see you here again next week.